lost, Axel. I'm busy. I've had more than enough of you for one night. Read my lips. Leave me alone!
Greetings, friends. I am DJ, and in this video I will be taking this blank and turning it into a Jason Voorhees hockey mask styled after Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Now, if you saw my 200 subscriber special, you will know that the first mask that I actually painted was indeed styled after Friday the 13th Part 4, but that was well over a decade ago, and since then I have learned a lot of things. Now, the way I'll be going about doing this is most similar to my Part 3 mask, which is right here, that I did last year. A few things I will try out differently, but for the most part it will be the same until we start adding more damage and blood to it. I do have most of the stuff that I'll be using just off to the side over here, but I have added a few things. Alright, so for new supplies it's pretty simple. I just have some paint sponges, Fear City Creations blood paint, and just a plain old paintbrush that we will be using. Now, our first step for this is going to be the exact same as the Part 3 mask. We'll be sanding the mask so that the base coat can better stick to the surface. We will start with a 320 grit sandpaper and then move down to a 220 grit sandpaper to dull any of the sharper or rough edges of the mask. I also have on standby 120 grit sandpaper that we might use when we are damaging the mask. And with that said, let's get straight into it. So in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the actual masks used throughout the film were reused masks from Friday the 13th, Part 3. In Part 3, you had the hero mask and the stunt mask, but in Part 4, they used almost exclusively the stunt mask. Though the hero mask did technically appear, it is the poster mask for the film, as well as the opening credits mask. Funny enough, it did live on into Friday the 13th Part 5, appearing on several of its posters as well. Though after this, the hero mask was lost to time. Alright, now that I have this guy sanded, it is prepped and ready for its base coat. Our base coat is going to be the exact same as it was for our Part 3 mask. Krylon Fusion All-in-One Paint Plus Primer, Dover White, a slightly aged white in color. We're going to put coats on both the back and the front to add depth for areas where the paint has been chipped off of the mask. But before we start spraying this down, I will put on these small balloons onto the rivets so that the spray paint doesn't interfere with these straps later on. And with that, our next step is going to be to add damage to the mask. For this, I'll be using an X-Acto knife, a box cutter, and some sandpaper. I have some reference photos pulled up, and I will be using those to designate where I will be putting the damage. Before we get to actually adding damage to this, I would like to say that, like my Part 3 mask, I did go over this with some pencil to add some definition and outline where I will be adding damage. I will also be experimenting with actually sanding down this mark on the nose and where the chevron has been removed from the forehead. The Part 3 stunt mask, now the Part 4 hero mask, did survive the years due to being kept quite safely by Dick Warlock, who was the stunt coordinator on Friday the 13th Part 5. Now, the thing about this mask is that for a majority of the film, it is obfuscated in the dark or just not on camera. with the exception of the final chase scene of the film, in which it has undergone quite a change. Both of the lower chevrons were completely removed by the end, and much of the varnish was chipped away. Alright, now that we have this guy scratched up all to hell, it's time to apply our varnish. With my part 3 mask, I used a sponge brush to apply it, but this time I'm going to try just a normal paintbrush. What I'll try to do is apply thicker coats over the mask and then partially sand each coat to even it out, and then after that apply additional layering. After which we will sand down some specific marks, specifically the nose, chevron, some marks on the forehead, and then the cheek inside of the eye hole. If you have interests in the Friday the 13th masks, you've probably seen floating around on the internet many Part 4 masks, specifically referred to as shower scene masks, or ending scene masks. Both of these are due to the fact that the scene in which Jason kills one of our characters in a shower and the very ending of the film are the two best looks that we have at this mask. And these are probably the best examples of how you can see how the weathering has really altered the look of this mask. Just the amount of damage and dirt and chipping is absolutely wild between these two scenes. Now, me specifically, I'm not going for any specific look. I'm probably going to aim more for a shower scene inspired mask, but I'm just trying to get the overall feeling or impression of this is a Part 4 Jason mask. Okay, so this is where we're at with the varnish and sanding. As you can see, when I take off the nose and chevron, that you can tell a much better difference between the varnished areas and then the sanded down areas. This is actually something that I forgot to do with the Part 3 mask. You can see on the tip of the nose how it still has the tanned color of the varnish. Same for the forehead mark, which makes it quite a bit more difficult to actually tell that it is a tanned color, especially on camera. But now that I have that sorted out with the Part 4 mask, it really comes through a whole lot more. And with that, our next step is to start adding some dirt and smudges. For that, I'll be using my paint sponge and the acrylic paints that I have. We'll be once again focusing on the nose, the side of the eye hole, and the cheek of the mask, as well as a few other small parts around the mask itself. Okay, after painting, I decided to scrape off some of the paint that is on the snaps here on both sides, just to add a little bit of depth to the mask here. Now our only steps left are to add the chevrons, the blood on the axe mark, and then put a clear coat over the whole thing, and then I guess take off these balloons and put the straps onto it. The addition of the dirt definitely helps with the depth of the color, especially on the nose there. I decided to go a bit heavy with the weathering around the axe mark here because I noticed that in the film it seems like there is some acrylic paint mixed into the blood that they used around that area. So I decided to throw on some here as a little experiment, I suppose. And here is our final product. With plenty of blood, sweat, tears, and way too much delay, I finally have my new Friday the 13th, the final chapter hockey mask. Going in with the extra scratches and the sponge brush did bring out a lot of detail in this thing. And the blood paint from Fear City Creations looks beautiful on this. Completely dried, but it still has that fresh, wet look to it. Here it is, side by side with my original Part 4 from about 15 years ago. And here it is next to my Part 3 that I did last year, using the exact same methods as this one. For my next Friday the 13th themed video, I'm probably going to do a full cosplay for Part 4, so keep an eye out for that one. And if you like this video, leave a like and comment down below. I really appreciate all the comments that everyone has been leaving on my recent videos. If you want to see more of my videos, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on all future videos. My current subscriber goal is to hit 300 by the end of this year. I have been DJ. Farewell, friends.